Good afternoon, everybody. Well, it's a little daunting going after super developer. And I'm really touched that you're all here and not in the Ghostbusters Star Wars session that's going on, because that sounded like a lot of fun. This session is Once in a Blue Moose, DIY on the fly. I'm Carmen Fisher. I'm a second-generation Alaskan. My father was a bush pilot whose exploits are chronicled in the book Winging It. My mother was the daughter of a prominent Juneau businessman, and during World War II, she and my grandmother moved to Anchorage and started the Alaska Treasure Shop, which, as far as I know, was the first Alaskan gift shop in Anchorage. They sold the business and she took time out to raise us kids, but she missed it. So she got back into the business when we got older. So in 1968, she started the business that today is Once in a Blue Moose, and we're a retailer of Alaskan gifts. For my own part, my background is in geology, and I never meant to work in retail. I certainly never meant to write a custom inventory management and point of sale solution. So life takes you on some very interesting twists and turns while you're journeying through it. We have 8 stores, a central office and warehouse. We sell gifts on the web at onceinaBlueMoose.com. Our staff varies in number from about 25 in the winter to 65 or 70 in the summer, because for some reason nobody wants to come and see us in the winter, so we need a lot more people in the summer. At any one time, we have between 7,000 and 10,000 products in the database, and we work with between 1,000 and 2,000 vendors. It's kind of a high number because a lot of people just walk in and all they've got is a pair of sealskin baby booties or something, so a lot of vendors. My own involvement came when my mother called me up, and I had quit my oil company job to stay home with my own kids when they were little. She called me up and said, you know, honey, how'd you like to do the payroll? You can take it home. And so that's how I got roped into it. Just a quick look at our stores. 2 of them are in malls. We have 5 in Anchorage, 2 are in malls where we cater more to local trade, 2 are in hotels. So we also carry travelers' conveniences, sundry snacks, sodas, newspapers, all that kind of thing, in addition to the Alaskan gifts. And those stores also in the summer are open from 6 a.m. to midnight, so coping with transactions and time records that run past midnight is par for the course. We have 3 seasonal stores 120 miles south in the town of Seward, Alaska. So I started doing the payroll for the company, and in those days that meant circular text tables in one hand and a calculator in the other, and writing out 60 checks by hand. So I was pretty motivated to see what technology could do, and when Macs came out, I fell violently in love. Started going to Macworld Expos, and that's where I saw FileMaker when it was first introduced. Now, word processing's great, never a fan of spreadsheets, but database, now here's something you can sink your teeth into. So we've had FileMaker for a long time, and we knew we wanted to have a computerized point of sale system. Well, the reason we learned to be do-it-yourselfers, the first company we worked with, a local company, by the time we took a couple days to think it over and called them back, they were already out of business. So next we worked with an outside company, and incidentally that's Alaska speak for outside of Alaska. I mean, last week I said I'm going outside to a conference, so that's just the way we talk. Anyway, we got as far as ordering equipment from them before they called in shock and said their parent company was shutting them down. So they offered us the equipment at cost. We took the Macs and also an industrial Fargo barcode printer. So here we have all this equipment and we have no software. So I said, wait, FileMaker can do that. And so one of the very first things we did of any consequence was start a product database that drove the Fargo barcode printer. Almost nothing we buy comes barcoded. It's getting a little better, but an awful lot of it is kind of cottage stuff, and it's not barcoded. We knew we were going to get to that point of sale someday, so we started barcoding about 4 years before we actually had a point of sale. So I was still going to Macworld Expos. That's where I discovered POSOE for Mac, and that became our point of sale system that we used for the next 22 years, from 1992 until 2014. And it was written in fourth dimension, and fourth dimension had good import and export capabilities, so that meant it played real nice with FileMaker. So when the buyers would come to me and they'd say, can the computer do this? My answer was always, well, FileMaker can do that, or at least I know how to make FileMaker do that, and I don't know how to make fourth dimension do it. So we would do exports all the time. A typical example is apparel designs. They were in our product database in Posse as, each size was a line item, but they wanted to compare the summary data. How did this design do compared to that design? So which one should we reorder? And so we would just export that data and get it into FileMaker and do whatever they needed. And we also went the other way. I started following them around to gift shows because we found when you have the product in your hand and the vendor sitting there with all the information, you get a lot better data recorded. Then we'd go back to the office and upload it into Posse. So we rocked along for 22 years that way, and life was pretty good. Then came 2014. And that was kind of a pivotal year for us. We had not upgraded Posse for a few versions because there was some question about the stability of the newer versions. And when we got ready to do it, we had so many versions to go that we actually couldn't afford it. Not only that, we couldn't stay where we were because the older version needed Rosetta, didn't run on the newer Macs, computers are getting too old, we need new ones. We had to do something. So we moved to Lightspeed. And as it turned out, Lightspeed was not the best fit for us because we're extremely centralized. Our stores do not have any storage room. They don't do anything there but make sales. We do everything else at the main office. All of the hiring, training, scheduling, ordering, receiving, pricing, warehousing. And in the summer, we actually resupply our stores 7 days a week. So the buyers were fit to be tied because you could find out where the product was by choosing another location on a pop-up menu, and then the quantity would appear as it pinged the remote database. But there was no what I call a God database that knew everything. They wanted something omniscient where they could see in a glance where all the product was. So once again, my reply to that was, well, FileMaker can do that. And so once again, we're with the exporting. Only, unfortunately, with the distributed nature of Lightspeed, it took 15 exports from 9 different databases to get the information they wanted. My new God database, my omniscient database, I called Mercury after the messenger of the gods. It felt like that's what we needed. And we actually started scheduling someone to come into the office a half an hour early every morning to do the 15 exports. And once we had them, it was just a matter of running a script, and FileMaker would flush the previous products and we'd import whatever the current thing was. And then the buyers were happy because they could get all the reports they were used to from FileMaker. So as I was working with Mercury, I thought, boy, it would sure help if I could increase my FileMaker skills a little bit. And I signed up for the same online class that Vivian took, which is how we met with John Mark Osborne and Stephen Blackwell. And that did really help me improve my skills. But a couple other things came out of that. Excuse me. A couple other things came out of that. One was, up to that point, we had not used FileMaker Server. usually I was the one using the database. Occasionally we did peer-to-peer sharing, but usually it was just one person in the database at a time. But with Mercury, suddenly we were so dependent on it, we needed better access. And after learning more about it in the class, I felt confident enough for us to go ahead and purchase it. And it has made such a difference to us. Being able to access our data, everybody access it at once, and being able to access it from any place virtually, opened up possibilities and vistas that we had not even imagined prior to this. So that was a big deal. The other thing that came up in the class is DevCon. And before this, I thought you had to be a certified developer to go to DevCon, and I would not have presumed to sign up to go, lowly me. And but everybody else was talking about going, and they said, no, anybody can go and learn. So that's been hugely exciting to me, especially having worked all the previous time before that without knowing a single other FileMaker developer. So coming to DevCon was a real treat, and just knowing people I could talk to and kind of getting that FileMaker energy was a big deal. So I came to DevCon in 2015, and we'd been talking by this time. We were all getting a little tired of the whole 15 export business and getting a little more cocky, and we thought, what if we actually put Mercury in charge of inventory management? We weren't just loading stuff in there, we were actually letting it control the inventory management. And then what if we found a FileMaker point of sale to go with it? Wouldn't life be great? So at my first DevCon, I met a lovely gentleman at breakfast, and I told him my story. On the last day, at the pool party, he introduced me to Alan Imperato of KeyBiz, and we ended up using Alan's KeyPoint point of sale in 2016, and we synced it with Mercury, and then life was really good. It did mean there was a very intense period there where Mercury really had to put on its big boy pants, because now we actually had to post sales, we had to be able to do purchase orders, we had to post transfers, it really had to be keeping track of everything. It had to be able to print barcodes, and so a bit of scrambling around to get that all done, because like Vivian, it's kind of a one-horse show. But that worked out really well, despite me occasionally waking up at night in a cold sweat thinking, oh my God, what was I thinking? But I think it's a testament to FileMaker that it went really smoothly. Well, then we really got cocky. I have 2 Padawan learners because I'm hoping someday I will actually retire. And so I'm trying to bring them into the FileMaker fold, have them take over from me. And they were kind of my cheerleading section, and they said, you know, we've come this far, why don't we just do the point of sale too? You can do it. So we really went crazy, and we thought, okay, we're gonna go all in. It's all gonna be custom. And so we did. I had a module that we were using out in the stores. I liked kind of keeping Mercury to ourselves at the main office, and didn't really want to bother the salespeople with seeing anything that was going on there. So the module we had out there, as long as we were going with names from mythology, we named it Athena, for the goddess of wisdom and patroness of heroic endeavors. The minute I heard that, I knew we had to call it Athena. And Athena was already doing timekeeping, people clocking in and out, even if it was after midnight, and doing transfers between stores. And also, it was connected to Mercury, so employees could do lookups. If they had a customer who wanted, 10 moose poop shitheads, and they only had 4, and yes, we sell moose poop, I'm not kidding. They could look up and see what other sister stores had that product. So now it seemed logical to go ahead and have Athena be the point of sale, since they were pretty well broken in on using Athena. I wanted to have a very streamlined checkout flow because we do get really busy in the summer. I wanted minimal hand on mouse time. The nature of our business is that usually the salespeople are really engaged with the visitors, they're talking about stuff, and they're often ringing people up and not even looking at the screen. And I also wanted really aggressive control over getting the cursor back into the search box, because the managers had told me they thought we were giving product away for free if someone moused away to apply a discount or look up something about a product or change a quantity and then forgot to click back in there, and then they're not watching the screen and they're talking to the customer again, they're scanning, nothing's happening over here. So I did everything I could to get around that, and pretty much every script I wrote pertaining to the invoice screen ends with, now jump back to that search box. It also has conditional formatting, so if you click away from it, it changes color. Another thing that we were able to put into Athena, we have custom hide and show payment types by location, because our Hilton store in the Hilton Hotel does room charges, the only place we do that. Only the main office does web sales. So that's nice to just not even have that show up. It's nice to have control, have it be responsive. We recently decided that we were not going to bother getting signatures on credit card sales under $50. So the same day, I was able to just hide the signature line if it wasn't needed. Another thing that turned out really well was our interactive shipping calculator. In the past, employees got out a shipping form, and on the back, it had some pictures of boxes filled with things, and they would kind of guess and look at the stuff. Well, it kind of looks like this box here, so I'll charge that. And it was a lot of guesswork. They were often wrong. Not their faults, really. It's hard to guess. So with Athena, they go to a screen where first they have the option of unchecking things the customer's taking with them. And that's not at all uncommon. They may have bought a Coke and some aspirin and a newspaper. They're taking those to their room, but they want to mail this other thing home. So they just uncheck those, and the shipping immediately recalculates. Also, sometimes people are a little shocked at how much it costs to mail things from Alaska, because we're zone 8 to everywhere. And so they want to talk about, well, what if I, put that book in my suitcase? How much will it cost? So sometimes it's a negotiation, and the salesperson can help them with that. Another thing that would happen is the mail out would get to the mail room, and the mailing person would look, and not everything's in the box that's on the receipt. And maybe the salesperson forgot to circle it and write, customer took it with them. And now Athena prints a packing list based on what they checked when they calculated the shipping. So the mailroom knows, oh, it's okay that the Coke's in the, well, nobody mails a Coke, but sometimes they do, they do carry things you think they might have wanted to mail. So that turned out really well. And we're getting much more accurate estimates on the shipping. The other thing that I was really happy with kind of circled back to one of our very first uses of FileMaker, and that was the barcode printing. We went with these German cab printers, and they are industrial printers. I love them. We had been using light-duty desktop printers, and we were just beating them to death, the poor things. Some of them would roll over and die, and some of them would just spit out crummy barcodes before they rolled over and died. I particularly wanted to be able to send a command file. Now, the cabs will accept a print job with an image of a barcode in it, but from my old days with that old Fargo, I felt like you got better resolution if you let the barcode printer internally create the barcode. And also, I think they're faster than when you're sending it as a print job. So this is an example of what a typical command file looks like. And FileMaker just inserts the data for the particular product that's getting printed. We have a series of layouts for price tag formats all done. One of those printers is loaded with cardstock and the other one with sticky labels. And then for each product, we're able to say what kind of label we want it to print. And FileMaker also knows what kind of media is loaded in each printer. So it then creates a text file, which is what the cab is looking for. And the script creates the text file, and then it invokes Apple script to FTP it over to the printer, and it knows which one to send it to. So even if a purchase order is a mix of sticky tags and hang tags, it can just seamlessly put the file out to the correct one, and they just sit there spewing out their little barcodey hearts. It's a beautiful thing to see. We also use FileMaker a lot for employee development. We have a very strong belief that customer service is super important, and it's the thing that can set us apart from everybody else. Our buyers do their best. We like to support local businesses where we can. They do their best to have really interesting and nice products, reasonably priced, but none of that does any good if you don't have good salespeople. So we really try to work with people to get them to be at the top of their game. We use FileMaker for payroll preparation, and we also have an initiative we call Project Gold Star, where we have kind of a complex system of bonuses and reward points that employees can earn. We track that in FileMaker. And our training is a FileMaker database, and it has a mix of images and scanned documents, but also videos, because training can be really boring, and we're kind of known for our goofy videos, and we've seen how people glaze over when they're doing an hour of training. So we try to keep it a little bit entertaining. And more recently, our policies and procedures manual, I'm so happy about this, graduated from a 3-ring binder in every store that was almost impossible to keep current, graduated to a searchable FileMaker database that they can access in the store. That means when we made the decision to change the policy about requiring the signature, not requiring the signature if the credit card's under $50, all I have to do is go in the database, change the text, and boom, it's current everywhere. So that's been a big boon. Well, the whole thing is kind of snowballed. I said FileMaker can do that so many times. I finally made believers out of everybody. So now I'm getting the calls. I had, just before I left, one of the managers called and she said, you know, I hate having to search for the piece of paper with the phone list on it, so can't you just put that on the screen? Sure. So now we have a pop-up with the phone numbers for the other stores. And one of my assistants said, why not put our tech support numbers right on the invoice screen? So we did that too. People are getting all kinds of crazy ideas. My nephew had a really revolutionary idea that I think is going to save us so much money and keep our inventory more accurate. Right now, every day we print a list of what's sold at each store the previous day. The pullers go downstairs, they get a shopping cart, they label it, they go through the warehouse picking the items, highlighting it off the list. Goes back upstairs, and we have a little crew of scanners standing around with laptops and Bluetooth socket mobile scanners, and they scan the stuff out to the stores. Well, that takes a long time. In the summer, we have 3 people. It takes them like 3 hours. That's 9 man-hours a day, 7 days a week in the summer. That's a lot of money. Vernon said, what if we gave iPads to the pullers, and they just pulled up the list on an iPad, and they tapped it when they pulled it, and then FileMaker just transferred it all. We wouldn't have to scan it. Wow, We'd only have to pack it. That would be really fast. So we have so many things on the list beside going back and improving what we've done, but it's been exciting to see how everybody's on the bandwagon now, coming up with ideas that I know are going to just make us fabulous in the future. If I have any wisdom to offer at all, one really big thing I learned doing Athena is if you can possibly train some users yourself, I really recommend it. I did about 20 training sessions on the initial go-round, and every single time I ended up with at least 4 notes on a list. I found a few bugs where something didn't, I'd say, and then you do this, oh, whoops. That doesn't quite work, does it? A lot of times they would say, well, can it do this? I would say, no, but that is a darn good idea, and put that on the feature request. And sometimes they were just anecdotes. You know, last year this customer came in and thus and so happened, and that gave me a chance to think about, was that a once in a lifetime thing, or is that something we should actually know how to handle when it happens? So if you can, I would urge you to do some training yourself. I think I know, I invent all our procedures, and yet my employees taught me so much when I was training them. And that's where we are now. So I really thank you for coming. If you're into goofy videos, go to YouTube and search on FileMaker can do that. And you can see one of our goofy videos. Any questions?
I may have missed it, but are you doing all of the development work yourself?
Yes.
One person?
Yes.
So we have 2 super developers.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
So I came in late. Is Athena a commercially based FileMaker product, or is it something you developed yourself?
It's something I just developed last winter.
I did a quick web search, and there is a product, point of sale product called Athena.
Really?
It's out there. It's sold by a UK company, but it's a reference to FileMaker, so I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I did not check that. I just thought Mercury, you know, patroness of heroic endeavors. How could we go wrong with that name?
So Athena is something you developed yourself?
Yes. Well, thank you all for not going to Ghostbusters. I think I would have, but I loved having you here. Thanks so much. And this is the first year that they've done this track, and so I'm sure that, oh, by the way, this is my dog Spanky. He's the boss. He comes to work with me every day. I'm sure that FileMaker would really appreciate getting your evaluation, since this is a little bit experimental, having these non-technical tracks. So you can let them know if you thought it was worth it or not. Thank you.